Welcome to the PrimeSpan Podcast, where we talk about aging, mental health, and living well in the years that matters the most. Each week, we cut through the noise to focus on what actually helps you feel clearer, steadier, and more in control as you age. If you're navigating the second half of life or thinking ahead, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Hi, Kaz. Hi, Allie. How are you guys?
Hi, Adam.
Good. Hello.
What a good time to record a topic that's near and dear to the three of us, I'm assuming. I'm happy that we're able to have this recorded session. And this is one of the first recorded session that we're doing for our PrimeSpan members, our podcasts, listeners. This is also a celebratory podcast because we're now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and Substack, which is a huge accomplishment for PrimeSpan. And we decided that this is a good time for us to share something that is near and dear on PrimeSpan's mission, but it's something that's also a huge topic of interest to our members. And it's also one of the biggest conversation for older adults. It is one of the biggest concerns that we get when we're talking with any older adults. And this is typically this conversation, we've done this in a workshop, but we're going to use this as a podcast and really just to spread the awareness and equip people that will be hopefully listening to this and we'll be exploring this topic down the line. So quite excited on this. Hopefully a lot of people will be encouraged to take actions. Again, I just want to remind anybody that listens to our podcast when we're talking about certain things, and just a disclaimer here, everything that we talk about at PrimeSpan, especially we're going to talk a little bit about we may have some strong opinion in these conversations. We want you to still work with your doctors and make sure that what you hear from us, you take it from an educational perspective. Use it for your creating an informed decision and creating a system that will help you talk to your physician, develop routines, develop systems that will help you maintain your cognitive strength. And that's really what we're trying to accomplish. You know, Allie, Kaz, I have a question for both of you. The three of us have been around working with older adults for the longest time. Based on our careers and the time that we've been around in the industry of aging service, how many of those do you think comes in front of you that are concerned with their cognitive strength or with their cognition? And what are the typical concerns that they typically bring to you?
I think that when we're looking at the number of people that are coming in and concerns, I would say maybe 30% are vocal and concerned about where their cognition is at, because they're aware they're in that in-between state where they're starting to feel like they have to think a little harder or work a little harder to recall things, or, they might experience some days where they have more brain fog than other days. So absolutely. We have a number of people who experience that, but I would say majority are already coming to us at a time where they're not aware of the cognition of the decline that they've had, and what they're experiencing is their reality, and they don't see they're not feeling it, essentially feeling the cognitive decline. There's other things that they express, but that's probably my experience. What about you, Allie?
Yeah, this is a great opening question. I agree with you that it is a lower percentage of people that are aware about cognitive health. A lot of our role is about education and awareness, and I think that people don't realize how important it is to manage your cognitive health and what are the things that we can all do to help maintain. I don't think that there's enough education about it. I think it's now becoming a larger topic. And, this is one of our mission at PrimeSpan to bring this to the forefront. But I don't think that of the people that we have experienced, like you said, people come in trying to manage their support system and environment, but don't realize, that this started 10, 15 years before. And then no one really is talking about what you can do before.
And that's really what we want to do in this conversation. This is why this conversation is going to be important for everybody that's listening, because this is very, very common when you reach that later years of retirement, especially when you reach the 80 years old. 75 is when everybody goes on a cliff. Everybody, you cannot escape it, regardless of your age, regardless of your skills, regardless of everything. 75 is a scary cliff. What we're hoping to do today is, if you're listening to this, whether you're 35, 40, 50, 60, that you'll be able to do something to create a system that will help you preserve your cognitive strength or build cognitive strength, so then you don't have to be one of those type of people that what we just talked about right now. Because this is one of the biggest problems. And this is what we always talk about at PrimeSpan. There's so many things that we could do, that we could have done 10, 15 years ago, but you didn't do it. But we didn't do it. So I'm hoping that everybody that listens to this conversation, that's what they're going to get. Hopefully that the participants will, or the listeners, whoever listens to this, if you have something that you will leave with, and if you're watching this live, if you're watching this on a video, you will find this on the screen, that we have these 4 things here that we're putting on the screen. We're hoping that you will create your 30-day cognitive strength map. Another thing that's very important is your bad week reset plan. If everything else fails, something that will make you go back to your default plan, and something that's a strategy that will always provide you, that allows you to get back to creating a balance when it comes to building your strength, when it comes to your cognition. And so let's go right through it. I think this is what Kassandra and you have talked about earlier, just from a quote here. Almost nobody that's aging out there, you don't really realize this. This is where it creeps on you. So when you're at work, but most of the people that work, you have a career, typically 30 years. You're typically, whether your business, your corporate ladder, your gig, 30 years typically. And most of the time, you create an environment that supports that, your independence, your routine, and everything else. When people retire, that system disappears. What people doesn't realize is that, and they don't admit this, what they lose is they lose their strength, their clarity, their independence. The biggest fear is losing independence when you lose your cognitive strength. And I'm sure both of you have seen many people that retires, and they have a hard time with retirement, when it comes to losing their independence. I'm curious, you probably both have some stories or someone that you could think of an example of a person that struggled with losing independence when they reach an age of 70, 80, when they reach a later part of their life. I'm curious what's been their theme that they shared with you.
Don't get old. I remember hearing just like my one of my grandpas telling, like, don't get old. It's not fun. But we had a conversation a little bit earlier this week, Adam, with the with our PrimeSpan interns about how college life, they're in college at the beginning of their careers, and how busy and jam-packed their days are. And I reflected on that when we were together with them. And I remember when I was exiting college and didn't have the hustle and bustle of getting to class and the work and the studying and the internships and volunteering, that was a hard transition, going from being super busy and focused. I think I even said I felt a little dumb, maybe my first year, because I had to find a new routine. And I think that applies at any age, but even more so when we're older, because we might not feel that we have the confidence to go out and, try new things and add them to our daily lives. So looking at that, and even transitioning from a very full-time role that I recently had to just kind of looking at building new routines now in this new stage of life that I'm in too, I recognized that was going to be really important for me. So I think when you're looking at my grandparents or people who are of that age, 60, 70, 80 years old, they just found ways to keep themselves busy because they were just so afraid of what would happen if they didn't.
That is so true. Ali, what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, as Kaz was kind of sharing, I was thinking about kind of that. You kind of described the life stages that people are experiencing, and I think that I know I'm in the stage where a lot of my parents or my friends' parents are retiring, and they've worked their whole life, and they're at the point where now they just want to relax for a little bit. But what happens after those 1 or 2 years that they've had the time to finally relax, and now what? How do they fill their day? How do they fill their time if they don't have the tools, or they don't know how to? Again, the word awareness, there's no awareness on how to manage your time. Are you going to just be sedentary and scroll on your phone? I think that it really depends on someone's situation, that there are a lot of people that are retired that do fill their time, and it's because they have grandkids or they have hobbies, they have social groups that they go to. And some people are more busy in retired life. Mm-hmm. But I think it really depends on their ability to seek out things or the community that they have. But if someone doesn't, what do they do?
No, you brought up a very good point, that you almost think, did they plan that? What did they do? How did they transition well into retirement, where there are retirees that are actually much more busy than during compared to the time that they were actively working, and you wonder what's the secret to those people. And I'm wondering, what's your opinion? What's your observation? What's been your observation?
The people that are the go-getters. I think some people that I'm thinking about who are busy in retired life, they really do have those social groups to go to. They have grandkids, or maybe in that stage they're also a caregiver for someone else. Mm-hmm. So they're really filling their time and kind of like managing their schedule.
I like that. Probably that is one of the biggest contributor. And I want to pivot us to this. This is something that I want to ask both of you. We're going to be a little bit vulnerable here. And since you brought up the social connection, and again, we're talking about how to build our cognitive strength here. I want to emphasize something about cognitive reserve. It's you cannot build your cognitive reserve without looking at all of these things that we're going to talk about. And one of the mistakes that we all been taught to do is, oh, you must do puzzles, or you must do Sudoku, or you must read, or you must do just one thing. The problem with that is you're only training yourself with that one skill. So we're going to talk about systems, just like what Allyson is talking about. So a scale of 1 to 5, I'd like you to tell we're going to talk about this thing. 5 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. Our listeners are probably going to wonder, okay, these three are the hosts of this show, and let's see how this guy scores. Honesty, and then number 6 is honesty. 5 is the most honest. Me. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'd like you to tell us, how do you score on each of this? 5 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. want to start? I can start.
Okay, you go first.
When it comes to strength or balance, which is the daily movement, I say I typically go. I'm on number 4 on that. That's probably one of my biggest priority, which is the I rely so much on the strength and on the daily movement, and that's been one of my priority. Sleep, you all know that's my kryptonite. I would score myself 1 on that. It's terrible. Mental clarity, for whatever reason, I think there is a benefit when it comes to the exercise so far, and that I've been getting, and my mental clarity is typically at 4, which is quite good. Metabolic steadiness, which is stable energy without crashes or craving, I say 3 at this point, because there's times that my sleep affects my metabolic steadiness. And connection or purpose, quality versus quantity, but it can improve. So I will go at 3 when it comes to my social connection and purpose. I feel like I have a lot of people I know, work, careers, and everything, but when it comes to real social connection and purpose, I think I can do better, and I put myself at number 3.
Up your mental clarity. I'm surprised you gave yourself a 4. That's very humble. I feel like you're like really at a 5 with mental clarity, just because of how much time we've all spent together and knowing you. Yeah, I would give you a 5 for mental clarity.
I agree. I second that.
It's the therapy that works, by the way. Therapy works a lot. That mental health thing, it works a lot. So
going into strength or balance, for me, I would put myself at a 2. It's my current priority and focus. But yeah, I just have not been consistent with it over the last 6 months or so. So number 1 for me is a 2. Sleep or energy, I would give myself a 4. I think I do really well with sleep. Energy, I think there's some room for improvement, but that'll just come from the strength piece and just metabolic. So you're right, everything is kind of, so all of these things tie in together. Mental clarity, I would say like a 3.5, 4, 3.5-ish. Depends on the week, the month. And then metabolic steadiness, I think that there's also some room for improvement here. I would give myself a 2. I'm starting to recognize how important routine is with just your nutrition and eating, and I don't have a consistent, I eat at this time. Like I try to, I don't always eat breakfast. I don't, there's room for improvement there. And then number 5, I would say I would give myself like a 4-5 for connection and purpose. I feel like I've always had a good sense and direction for the most part for my purpose and my connection to others. And I would say I'm higher ranking in that.
I agree with you when it comes to connection or purpose. You're actually one of the best connector that I know, like real deep friendship.
Yeah, I err on the side of quality versus quantity too. When I was younger, it was more quantitative. But again, when we were reflecting this past week on just life and where we're at, I feel like the quality people I've met more in my mid to late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hope no one's listening that I've met before then. And then, but those are my deeper, like long-standing relationships, that I've been able to maintain. And as your lives get busy, it's just, you have to be more focused with your time. So I think that for me has been important.
I'm just thinking about this. I should have divided purpose and connection, because purpose is also very different than just connection. because now I'm double guessing myself. My purpose is very clear, just like what you said. My purpose has always been clear, and my connection is where my number 3 was. So, anyways, I'm just saying.
I think it's going to be based on how you define connection and purpose, because I could totally intertwine those two for you and make you feel like you're at a 5 for connection. I think what you're looking at
on
is
the quality level, yes.
Yeah.
Like the ones that I invest myself and all the time, because I do love the people I'm around, and I 100%.
Yeah, I think we have to probably distinguish connection versus being social. Right?
Oh, yes.
I think those are two different, and we kind of interchange them. But they're two very different things. Like, you can go and be social. It doesn't mean that you're connected to the people you're being social with.
See, this is why I love this. See, you just made me feel better about this connection.
There we go.
Allie, what are your thoughts are here?
I love listening to you both. I feel like I am so honored to always be with you guys, be friends with you guys, and I always learn a lot from you. And Kaz really has the depth, she has the depth about her whenever you're bringing in any kind of conversation. It's interesting when you rank yourself and then how other people see you, because I think we're always harder on ourselves.
I agree.
Initially, when you said rank it, I initially ranked it in a different way. I didn't score each. So for strength or balance, mine I put at a 3. It's something I'm continuing to work on, but I know that I'm like in the middle. I know that I could do better with it. For sleep, I gave myself, I think I'm like at a 3.5 or 4, just depending on the day and the week as well. I'm really working on it. I think that having the wearable tracker I have now, it's really helped me to see what my quality sleep is, and I think it's a really cool tool to use. Mental clarity, I also think it's at a 3 or 4, depending on what I'm doing. And I think it really helps to be consistent with like the work and the type of work you're doing. Because if I go on vacation or if I stop, then I'm not like maintaining what my clarity is. For metabolic steadiness, this one is a 3 because I know I could do better with my nutrition. And I put a 5 for connection and purpose, because I think that's just my strongest area. But when you said thinking about dividing connection, socialization, and purpose, I agree with you that they're all connected. They're all different at the same time. So yeah, those are my rankings.
This is very good, and I love you're actually one of the most balanced person I know, Allyson.
Am I? Are you sure?
You are. You are. Cass, what did you score yourself on sleep?
I think I did sleep. I did a 4 because my energy, because we have sleep and energy together, and my energy does fluctuate a bit.
There you go. Well, here's the good thing. I mean, when you think about the PrimeSpan team, at least all of us, we don't, our strengths and where we need room for improvement are not the same. So actually, we complement each other. Where someone is doing 5 or 4, another person might be needing compensation in that area. So it's a good thing. For our listeners, I'm hoping if you're watching this on video, try to do something similar to what we're doing. Our goal here is not to track perfection. What we're trying to do is what we're gonna try to figure out is we're gonna try to figure out, how do you track stability and how do you build up from here? Because really, you cannot get perfection out of this all the time. Life happens and it would fluctuate. All of us have life events. You're gonna go through something, and this conversation that we're having right now, our goal is to provide you systems that will allow you to recover if you go down on a dip, and hopefully get you back to systems that will put you stability. So later on, we'll talk a little bit about this again. And again, your scorecard. Here's something that I want us to do later this week, if you have a chance. If you have a moment later, later after this conversation. And this is for those of you that are listening and also watching this on video. After this recording or after this podcast, if you implement anything that we're going to talk about today, our challenge to you or for you is to maybe look at this scorecard after a while and see if you can improve it by doing what we're talking about. And that will be the goal. It's knowing where you stand at first. Okay. When we're talking about this is just an analogy that I want to share when it comes to what we're trying to build, because most of us eventually will go through crisis or challenging situation, and we all have this idea that my willpower is gonna push through and I'll be able to manage the stressful situation that I'm able to manage. And what you need to think about, what we need to think about is always, what can I do so then I can design something that I don't have to rely on my willpower? Because willpower is not infinite. What you need to always think about, is there a system that allows me to maintain this? So I have a question for the two of you. For those areas that you scored high, 4 and 5, how do you maintain, and I'm going to go a little bit here, how do you maintain your areas of 4 and 5 where you scored it 4 and 5? Do you have a system, or is it willpower that you typically do?
For sleep, I think it's just it's something I did have to work at for a couple of years and do the whole no screens before bed. Maybe having tea, just figuring out what worked for me. That's a little bit more, I had to work at it. So some willpower was needed, for that. And then for the connection and purpose, I think for purpose, when you're younger, you do need people around you to help mentor you to figure out what that is, or have someone to talk with. And then you always have to, I think that's just continuing on with your purpose and keeping it at a higher, grading scale here. It's just really reflecting and reminding yourself, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, what your purpose is, so that way you don't lose sight of it, because people can. And with the connection, it's really just a non-negotiable. So with like family and friends, if there's like a special event or celebration, it really doesn't matter what's else is going on. If I can be there and make it, like, I'm going to, do it. So, and just again, really figuring out who are those people that I want to spend that time with, who, it's kind of filling them up, them filling me up, there's that exchange.
Allyson, I'm curious about your answer. How do you maintain those high scoring areas?
Yeah, it's really interesting to reflect on this, because I don't think we give the time to think about it, I believe that it is, like you said, it's a system and it's something that's maintained. So when I think about if it's mental clarity, if I'm operating and working at a consistently like moderate level and I maintain that, I stay there. But once I decrease it, it's hard to like build it back up, if you will. And for connection, I think there's a lot of jokes now about like scheduling, meeting your friends, or making time, or you're meeting a month out. But it does require maintenance of those things. we've created a system. Okay, we're going to meet once a month, or right now I'm not near my family, so that would be a lot different to maintain those connections. Is probably just like constant, kind of like you said, at Cass. It's just something that naturally occurs. But I think that it relates to the environment that you're in, that going to work, maintaining this structure and routine helps me stay there. If I don't have that, then I totally lose it.
This is a very important topic. This is a very important signal that I want to I'm trying to emphasize here, because a good amount of us at one point in time can manage things without systems, because you have so much bandwidth that you can just survive. You can wing it, as people say. You can bounce from one place to the other without feeling tired. You can drive from San Francisco to LA and then come back to San Francisco again and not feeling tired, and you're totally fine over the weekend. But you cannot maintain that when you reach a certain age. When you reach a certain age, you need systems. And our what Allyson was talking about is really, and Kassandra here is talking about too, is putting systems together. This is a very, very important aspect when it comes to creating one of the very important aspects of building cognitive reserve, creating your systems immediately as soon as you can. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Rather than relying on your willpower, when you reach a certain age, your ability to maintain balance also decreases, and your ability to tolerate failures, tolerate challenges, tolerate breakdowns, tolerate surprises, tolerate anything that is not as planned. Sometimes, and again, I'm talking about the general people, talking about the general age of the adult. It's not as easy to do that. So what we're trying to accomplish is you need to make sure you're designing something that allows you to have as what you call almost like a cruise control. And that's like a system, designing a system. People that are able to create a calendar, lists, you have to start doing that. And that's what we're trying to talk about here. Here is some of the things that that is a not a hot topic, but an area of we call it bottleneck rule. When it comes to your weakest system, and it typically affect each other. Think about this, because this is very common when Kassandra, when you were mentioning this earlier, as you were describing some of your ratings, and this is also why I'm emphasizing that sleep, your nutrition, your social connection, your metabolic strength, and your everything else these are all connected. When your sleep is fragile, most likely your workouts will not feel as good as it is. Cass, how is your run when your sleep is not good?
Oh, it was not good. I think it even starts before then. Like if I don't have good sleep, I'm a little more testier is a nice word. I'm a little more testier.
You're being nice about this right now.
I have to sometimes I have to really pep myself up and give myself a pep talk in the morning to rewire the brain, because I've realized that doesn't work even in the short period of time. And but yeah, my runs, like I would not feel motivated. I mean, to think about 6, 7, 8, 9 plus 10 miles, to run, that's already a difficult feat, right? Mentally, and then to know that you didn't get a good night's rest, that's also adds noise to what the goal and the focus is. So no, they were not the greatest, and I struggled through them when it wasn't good, when I did not have good sleep. And Same thing goes for work. Like I would struggle sometimes and have to give myself some space and say, hey, I'm going to need an hour to catch up on some things. And while I did do some work, it was allowing me to like get into the zone to be ready to connect with people and provide a better experience for them and for me.
But I'm sure there's a domino effect when this is happening, because this is what I'm trying to point in this conversation. The idea in here that I'm trying to share is, if you identify your weakest point, your bottleneck, typically that can trigger a domino effect when it comes to, or chain reaction, domino effect, whatever you want to use. It can typically create a whole chain reaction to your health, just like what our demonstration here. If your sleep is fragile, you would not typically, if you'd like working out, just like what you said, your workout is going to have a hard time. And if you don't work out and you don't consistently work out, your mood, your energy, it would dip. And when that mood and energy dips, what typically happens when your food choice?
I definitely don't make good food choices. So there's been times when it's been a really long week and I just, it's bad, but I'm like, I just really want, some fast food of some sort. I really have no energy to cook or clean or do anything. And that's a poor choice.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't contribute to better energy in the long run.
Yeah. It is. And then what happens when you don't have good energy? The ability or your drive to do things socially also will drop eventually. Now, think about this if it's only happening once a week, but compound this weekly, daily, monthly. Imagine if this is your common routine, that you constantly have this as a challenge. If you don't have a system that manages this, it's going to be a constant cycle, a spiral, as we say. And this is going to be challenging for people. And this is what we're trying to help on this, what we want people to identify. And I'm going to try to skip right here. I want to talk about fixing things or trying to address certain things, because people are listening to us here. Okay, now what? If you've been talking about addressing things, people are probably saying, what do you suggest? What do you want? How do you address these things? How do you manage this situation? Let's talk about sleep first. And these are not just our suggestion. These are based on research that we've put together. But I also want to ask Kassandra and Allyson, of course, their opinion about this, because one of the most challenging issue when it comes to sleep, really, when you get older, actually, if you're living a busy life, depending on your job or depending on what you do, the sleeping at a certain time, when you reach a certain age, falling asleep is a big challenge, as we all know. When you reach a certain age, sometimes you don't have a control over it. I've heard people saying, I lay in bed, I toss and turn, I toss and turn and toss and turn. Research have proven that that's the biggest challenge. And we're not prescribing medication here. We're not trying to say take a sleeping medication, because that's really not what we're trying to accomplish here. What we're trying to suggest for people that's listening, what you have a control over is your rhythm when it comes to waking up. If you have the same wake-up cycle, it's going to help you maintain, it's going to help you with your sleeping routine better than anything else. So our suggestion, if you're struggling with sleep, your sleep cycle, you're falling asleep, you may not have control over, but the wake-up time, if you can manage that wake-up time, do something about it. Have a stable wake-up time, because that is something that's going to help you maintain your cortisol regulation, your melatonin production. And then that's also done. Then when you do that multiple times, it's going to build up and it's going to get your sleep cycle better. That's one of the strongest recommendation we're recommending here in this conversation. I'm curious with Kaz and Allyson, what have you done when it comes to managing your sleep? Because this is not my strongest area, as you know. I'm curious, what's your other opinion?
I think it's important to identify, first of all, what's realistic. What's a realistic time for you to go to bed? What makes sense for you, not based off of other people. So what makes the most sense for you? And then also what makes the most sense for you to wake up? What do you want to, are there any goals or things that you need to accomplish before you start your day, going to work or whatever your, 8-hour day looks like, or, 8-hour plus day looks like. So I think I think that's really important before you do anything else, is just identifying what time do you want to go to bed, what makes sense for life, and what time do you want to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my piece of advice to people. Allie, what about you?
I have, since working closer together and getting to know each other better, I've been inspired by Kaz's priority of sleep. So it's motivating to be with other people that are, have tried things and it's worked for them. So it's been motivating for me. But before, on the weekends, I would take naps, and they would be long naps. And so that's when I had no knowledge or education about, why sleep is important, or, I wouldn't have any kind of consistency. So now with the knowledge I have, protecting, I think in the last month, I've been working on waking up at the consistent time, right? I think before it's like, oh, go to sleep at the same time, but what about the other end? Waking up at a consistent time is important. And my purpose of having to get out to walk the dog and getting that light exposure from the beginning really kind of helped me boost and get the day started. So, and then finding the techniques on what helped me sleep better. I need it to be purely dark, kind of any light in the room. And I've tried sleeping masks and all these things. But yeah, finding the little things that work for you to have a better environment to sleep in, it has helped me.
Do you wear a sleeping mask when you sleep?
I have one that has, like, regular mask just kind of like goes on your face, but I have one that has little sections for your eyes so that it doesn't feel like claustrophobic.
Yeah. I've been sleeping with a sleeping mask lately just to keep a complete blackout. It helps me a lot. It helps me a lot.
I also have blackout curtains too. And I also sleep with sleeping music to get to sleep. It's kind of like what maybe what you do for your baby. There's a sound machine. It's dark. It's nice and.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, there's so many people out there who are doing all of the like a very robust beauty nightly routine where it's the sleep tape, it's the creams for your face, it's the mask, it's the wrap around the head, the hair rollers and stuff. And I don't understand how people can sleep through that, but that also takes dedication and focus and training to be able to sleep with all that on.
Correct. Correct. There's studies about the tape, by the way, if you're trying to do nose breathing, but probably stopping your saliva from dripping if you're also drooling a lot in the evening. So that's
they say that the tape, I think the tape works. I was just talking to one of my friends, and she did a sleep study and needed to get a CPAP machine.
Yeah.
But she said in order to prepare her for that, she started to tape her mouth. because it's uncomfortable, I guess, if you are breathing through your mouth and your nose. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next system. Movement and strength. This is the other one that if you're not doing enough, you don't have to do a lot of it. But this is something that you cannot not do as you get older and older and older and older and older. And this is there's a minimum requirement when it comes to our exercise, as we know. Consistency beats intensity at exercise. The most important, there's a combination here. You cannot forget a majority of the people are driven by cardio workouts, and the most important thing that they forget is the strength exercise. And cardio is good, but you also have to remember what builds your muscles, your brain strength, and your bone strength is your weights as well. So you have to make sure you're doing both and not just doing your cardio. Recommendation for an older adult here is, how many of you when you're exercising, when you're doing your cardio, do you talk to someone? Can you talk with anybody when you're doing your exercise?
I prefer, if I'm doing cardio, I prefer not to.
Can Ali, how about you when you're doing your boxing?
Oh, definitely not.
Okay.
And this one is my lowest, one of my lower ranking, but I know that it's if you're doing cardio exercises, you should not be able to have a conversation, or should be a little challenging to talk to someone.
There you go. That's the goal that you want to reach. When you're having a hard time talking when you're doing your cardio or your workout, that means you reach the aerobic level that you want for 20 minutes, at least 20 minutes minimum. That's what you want. But that's the intensity that you want on those. What they call it VO. Is it VO2? No. It's a level 2 training. But that's what you want. You're having a hard time talking when you're training. It's something that you cannot not do when you get older. It's an important piece. And I'm curious for both of you, if you have a strong advice when it comes to workouts. I know, Cass, you're on you're taking a break from marathon right now, but what's been the biggest what's your best advice for exercise, movement, and strength for our listeners here?
My biggest advice is to get out and do something, any kind of movement. With the pause that I've had since November, I really haven't been consistent, and I'm seeing how it's affecting daily life for me. So my biggest advice is, even if it's just getting outside and going for a walk, or going up and down stairs a few times, at the very minimum, just get out and move. It's okay to start small. I know we say that a lot on our platform, but there's so much truth to it. Sometimes when our goals are a little bit too big, or we want to accomplish something in a certain amount of time and it doesn't happen, it ruins our momentum, and it really does play with our mind. So just starting small and to just move. And if you need to be, there's a couple of pieces of advice. And if you are more social, you don't feel comfortable doing something by yourself, I'm sure there's someone within your circle that you can connect with, and they'd be happy to join you.
Ali, what's yours?
Your mention earlier about consistency is important. I've established a goal of going to my studio at least once on the weekends. And so in a way to start small and just commit myself to that, I've done that for the last couple of months, and I feel good about it. And now I want to, make sure that I get a daily walk in with my lunch break, because I need to get outside as well and just move. So I think, again, goes back to just scheduling this small thing for myself and having a routine with it. But the workout that I have on the weekends, it's pretty intense, and also because I'm only doing it once a week. So your note here about going hard and then rolling out of bed the next day feeling in pain, like that's not good, for me. But I'm trying to, my goal of trying to go once a week has been important. But yeah, I like when I feel, my heart pumping, and then after the workout, you just feel so good. So why not? Why don't you want that later?
Yeah, I'm one of the same. I'm the same thing lately. I'm the same way lately on my Saturday, Sunday workouts. Rafi and I have we probably punish each other when it comes to workouts, because that's the only time I can actually pay attention to the workout. So just like you, that's the hardest workout of the week. On the normal day of the week, if I can work out, I just do very light, just to maintain it, the movement. Especially our jobs are typically not as as active. So, but for our listeners, hopefully, if what we're trying to avoid is the typical gym culture, which is push harder, push harder. So what you need is your consistency. I love this topic, and this is one of our area of one of I say that one of the most important when it comes to building your cognitive strength at a certain age, because we just talked about this actually in our last podcast when it comes to nutrition. And when you're eating, it's you're trying to support stable energy and avoiding blood sugar crash. It's for your mental clarity, and same thing. What is your advice when it comes to maintaining stable nutrition program or food intake for our listeners that they may be struggling? Because when you're a certain age, this could be technical, this could be challenging. We've discovered this last time, where if you're single, if you're alone in the house, or you're cooking for yourself, that could be challenging, but it doesn't have to be. What are your best advice when it comes to nutrition and maintaining metabolism?
I think your note about eating at consistent times is helpful for me. If I have my lunch at the same time and my dinner at the same time, then my body can expect it. And also having a small snack, a few nuts or a thing of yogurt in between to kind of help maintain, so that I'm not starving later, has been important. But I don't, like I said, nutrition is a little lower ranking for me, but I try to incorporate that. I think something that's also helped me is doing meal prep. And I have, it's easier if you don't have to cook for your family and make a big meal. So if I cook for myself, I kind of have a few recipes that I can meal prep, and I can eat that same thing for at least 3 days. 3 or more than that, I kind of get really tired of the same meal. But having a repertoire of foods that you like, and repeat those. There's nothing wrong with repeating some of those things if you're able to. For me.
So this is the one I'm working on. But I think that if there's like, I enjoy breakfast food, I enjoy eggs, I enjoy sourdough toast, like all of the yummy breakfast food, and the ones that I'm not saying too. But I think it's okay to eat like that doesn't have to just happen in the morning. Like you can have that in the evening for dinner. So if the foods that you do like, and if they are healthy for you, it doesn't have to just be in the morning. If you like steak, you can cook a steak in the morning. It doesn't have to be in the evening. So make that work for you for those foods that you do like. And you do have to have some variety, because if you continue to eat the same thing over and over again, for most people, you'll get sick of it. So you need to make sure that there is some variation to what you're eating. And if there's something that you don't enjoy eating, but it's good for you, just keep trying it every couple of months. You'll start to grow a tolerance for it, and it works. So I've now, you guys all know that when we were first jumping on board with PrimeSpan, no, I can't think of the arugula was not my friend. Arugula is my friend. Cottage cheese was not my friend. Cottage cheese is now something I love. And then I moved over to soft boiled eggs, which I would never have eaten before, but I just love that too right now. So just keep at it. You'll eventually, olives are still, that's going to take another couple of years, I think. But yeah, that's my advice.
Any guilty pleasure lately that you want to share with our listeners or viewers?
Well, they need to go back to podcast 4 or 5 to hear the guilty pleasures.
So you still have the same pleasures? Guilty pleasures, same?
No. Panda Express is not my guilty pleasure anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know right now. Honestly, I don't know. Like nothing. Yesterday I was kind of like wanting something, but I'm like, nothing sounded good. And we have ice cream. We have like leftover chocolate from Valentine's Day, but none of that sounded. Popcorn. I feel like popcorn is just, it's not bad, but it's not good for you either. But popcorn, I think, is probably like a little bit. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Allie, I'm curious if you have new guilty pleasures about food.
I think I mentioned French fries before, and earlier this week I had some skinny truffle fries that were really good, and it's always a real treat when I have it, since I try not to eat it too often, so it makes me really miss it. But French fries are always a go-to. Adam, nutrition is your strongest pillar.
It is.
You can give us advice.
I have a new guilty pleasure in this. There's a new ice cream shop in town that I love going to. And typically you go to this it's a gelato place. And you go and you go for one scoop, and it's so expensive. So what I realized is you go buy a pint to go, and it's almost 4 times the amount of ice cream you get, and it's the same price. So lately I've been doing that at least once a week. When
we all know Adam has a sweet tooth. Yes,
correct. And it's so good, especially the hazelnut overload and a pistachio crunch flavor.
Gosh, you're speaking my language with gelato. Gelato's been, but I don't look at gelato as unhealthy.
Correct. It's less sugar, it's cream, it's healthy for you.
In the summertime, there's a gelato spot at our mall nearby, and it's just amazing. Like every Sunday, we walk around in the heat for a bit, and then we've earned our gelato. So
yeah. I apply my MVP thoughts in these things. It's like I plan it, I commit to it, and then I'm not gonna feel bad about it, because the next day I have plans of managing how to manage this. Next day I fast, and then I do whatever I can do, So
I'm curious to know what gelato spot this is.
I can tell you the name. It's
Does it
it's
start with a V or a B?
it is called this is they have three places. Hold on.
There's one with a B that just opened up near
Mhm.
work. So I'm excited to try that. We have a plan to go there on Monday. So
You have
hopefully
to
it's not
try
going to
that
be too
one.
cold. I'm excited.
You have to try that one, Allie. That one is really good too.
Okay, it's called Basio de Latte.
Yes,
It's delicious.
that's the one Allie's talking about. And they just opened up one too here, but there's one at the UTC mall called Venchi, and that one is really good too.
Basio
But
de Latte.
Barcio de Latte is delicious.
Oh, so if you're listening to this, if you're the owner, maybe sponsor this podcast. We don't mind. So okay, we're almost closing in here on these systems, and I want to make sure people get into this. Cognitive vitality. This is something that I was saying earlier. People sometimes think that this is some where they have to put a lot of time doing, and what they forget is it's not just this is not just about reading. It's not just about puzzles, not just any of those. There's a lot of things that you need to do when it comes to cognitive vitality. And you have to make sure that you manage to train. It's a very compound conversation. It's complex conversation, not compound. Complex conversation. But the other one thing that how many of you can say that you are good at multitasking?
I thought that I was, but I'm really not. I get too distracted, or I don't know if it's because I'm getting older.
Cass, are you good at multitasking?
It depends on how much brain power each task requires.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends on the tasks for me.
Okay. There's what I'm asking is this is where our biggest challenge nowadays in today's world. We load up ourselves with so much distraction. But even when people are trying to learn, we load up ourselves with distraction. And what we're trying to say is with all of this, it's actually creating mental stress to your brain. It's actually not healthy for you. It's compounding that those stressors are actually not healthy. What you need to make sure, if you really want to help yourself create cognitive vitality, is also lowering the amount of distraction, focusing on one thing first, one at a time, so then you can focus, and then start building, start learning from there on. A lot of the time people think, oh, I can't remember things, oh, I'm forgetting a lot of things. But the reality is it's really not forgetfulness. It's just that you have so much in your mind. And this is a huge I've sometimes I've done talks where people are saying they think they have mild cognitive impairment, and then when you talk about their lifestyle, what they do, what they try to put on themselves, it's overload. It's cognitive overload. And what we're trying to tell everybody here is try to reduce those clutters. Our phones could be a challenging, the to-do list, all of these things. You have to lower the clutter, because you need to train yourself to maintain attention and lower the distraction when trying to do this. How many of you still read actual books versus iPad or tablets? Allie, Cass, do you still read actual handbooks or not anymore?
I prefer the books because I don't know, it's just easier for me. I feel like looking at the screen and reading is just, I don't know, it's just like a mental thing for me.
Yeah.
I might need to reconsider my score on cognitive vitality. Reading is not a strong suit for me, but if I do, I would prefer to listen to an audiobook because it's not my strength.
Yes. But you still listen to a book. But the reason I'm asking is if you're reading on a tablet versus a normal book, this is the only reason I'm asking. Sometimes if you're reading on a tablet, you tend to get distracted too, because your tendency is to still browse on tablets and there's pop-ups and everything. And that's one analogy that I'm trying to use of, instead of, if you're trying to read, focusing on reading, you're using a tablet where there could be a lot of distraction as well. So goal here is to try to lower distraction as much as possible. The last, your connection and purpose, which is what we talked about earlier, Kassandra's strongest. Because actually, both of you, actually, when you think about it, this is our strength, the three of us. I'm reconsidering my score. Thank you, Kassandra, for reminding me that I don't have a poor score in this one. So this is one of the biggest piece that when you reach a certain age, what we're trying to recommend all the time, or what I'm trying to remind people is, if you can do one thing when it comes to your social connection, if you have one minimum viable dose, or we call it minimum viable participation, MVP, you try to have one social anchor that is very regular. If you don't have a lot of social anchor, if you can have one social anchor at a minimum to maintain, Allyson, like what you're saying, calendar those group dates, calendar those friendship meetings and everything. It's going to help you maintain your connection, those connections that you're trying to build. Also, it's when it comes to it's going to make it easier when it comes to managing a system. I have a question for both of you, since when it comes to connection, and this is probably one of the biggest challenge when you reach a certain age, and we've seen this happen. What do you think? We know the challenge. We've probably seen the challenges, and we can share the solutions in this. But if you are, what do you think are the fears that comes to mind, or that what do you think are the common fears of older adults, why they stop trying to have connection with other people?
I think harder for people when they're a little bit older, if they're not really social to begin with, that's difficult, even more so. And then as we age, we begin to lose people who have been in our social circle, or we're losing family, and that may have been our means of connection. So now we're rusty and we don't know where to start. I think that's a fear. And then if they are experiencing some challenges with remembering or memory, they don't want that to come to light in front of others. So it's just easier to revert back and not be social.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think to add on to what Cass said, I've also noticed people are just thinking it as such an inconvenience. Oh, it's too much work to go out and meet people or do something, or if they lose the ability to get places due to mobility, or it's just too difficult to drive somewhere. That's one thing I've noticed also, to add on to what Cass said.
And that those are real fears that everybody goes through. And again, the systems hopefully will help you maintain and avoid those from happening. We're getting closer here when it comes to this one end, but before that, let me just go to here's what we're going to do for everybody now. If you look at your earlier for the pillars that we were looking at earlier, the sleep, the diet, the movement, social connection. For our listeners, if you would like you to look at those again earlier and identify what are those bottlenecks that you have. Think about it for a moment. And what we want you to do is look at it as, what can I do in the next 30 days to create a foundation that would support when it comes to changing. If something is, if I'm identifying a bottleneck, and this is something that would require a lot of or it would require looking into what is that weakest point that you have, and creating habits, new habits, or sometimes existing habits that you want to stack with. And this is what we're going to do. Here's an example. Just think about it. I will use myself as an example. My bottleneck is sleep, as we all know. Cass, what's yours again? And Allie, if you just look at yours.
My first, I would say like movement.
Movement. Allie?
Mine was nutrition.
Okay. So for our listeners, that would be something that you'll be doing, looking at your bottleneck. Your goal is to set a 30-day foundation. This is a challenge for everybody, for all of us here. Depending on your bottleneck, what you want to do is to create your foundation. This is something that we want you to try. Hopefully, don't get overwhelmed. If you get overwhelmed, that we didn't meet the goal here. We failed you. Our goal is not to overwhelm. The next step, third step, is we create what we call weekly anchors. And what does that look like? Weekly anchors are your habits that is already existing in your life. Touch points, basically. Things that you can blend something to make it easy. Connecting things like, if my habit is, let's say my biggest challenge is sleep, what would be the anchor that I could use to attach to make, what would be a habit that is already in place, that's doing well, that I could add to improve my sleeping issue or my sleeping problem? And so one of my strongest is my workouts, which is, I like working out in the morning. If I have a consistent workout in the morning and I wake up at the same consistent time, I can then address my wake up cycles. So think about your weekly anchors that you could use for yourself too, when it comes to your nutrition, when it comes to your movement. Think about that for a second, because that is something that what you're trying to do is you're creating a habit stack. You already have an existing habit that's good. And what you're trying to do is attach a habit there, so then you don't have to recreate something. It's almost like when someone's saying, when you wake up, do you guys drink coffee or tea? or water?
I drink water first, and
Water.
then I move on to coffee a little bit later because it just is better.
Perfect. Okay, Allie?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are you asking the first thing you drink when you wake up? It's water.
Okay, good.
Like at least 5 sips of water before I have any coffee. Also because I don't eat breakfast.
This is very good when you think about it. So it's the same thing. If your problem is movement, perhaps during the time in the morning, instead of just sedentarily just drinking those waters or your coffee, maybe start doing early stretches, attaching something that can help you. And then step 4, what you want to do is to create something that if you have a failure, this is always something that we want to remind people. There's no such thing as failure. Failure is just data. In life, if you failed on something, then identify why do you feel it's just something, it's just a bad week. Just reset it. If you internalize that you failed, then that's a problem. Just look at it from protocol. What broke first and how can I restart? That's always something that you want to do. Instead of thinking that, oh, I failed, look at it from what can I do to reset? What happened? What triggered that problem? And instead of thinking, so it's a data. Look at it from a data perspective, shifting your mindset. And then step 5 is look at the look how long, or create some measurements when it comes to the goal that you're trying to do, that you're trying to put together. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking for stability. So if you have a stable week or you have 5 days of stability and you drifted after 5 days, what happened on the 5th day? Just look at it as a data. And then how do you recover from then? Instead of thinking I failed and I cannot get back to it, just look how far can you go when it comes to success. What would be something that they could look at as a North Star, basically? Something that they could always look at and say, this is something I'm going to follow, and something that would guide me when it comes to a direction. So that's a pattern that we want the viewers or listeners to try. What do you both think?
I think it gives all of us a lot of permission to know that we're going to have bad days because life happens, and to be able to prepare yourself that, okay, if something happens, it's not the end, but I can just get back on track. And I think the visualization of the North Star, just, what is your goal, and just staying on that path to reach it is important, no matter if you have a good day, good week, bad week,
I like the planning. Is very similar to what Ali said about just the days or the week that things aren't really going as planned. That's just life. So rather than making an excuse for it, you're just building it into your routine, and it's expected. So it doesn't feel as heavy, maybe, or the failure of not having a completed week of successful routines just isn't as heavy, maybe, as it would be. So I think that honestly, it's made me rethink a lot as we've been diving into just the content and the material that we've recently been working on, just knowing that that's going to happen and it's okay. And let's just pick it up again the next day or later that day, however it works into life for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me just close this as we talk about here. I think this is a good landing point when it comes to how we want to close this episode. And here's the invitation. Time goes by so fast when you think about it. We're almost an hour plus in this podcast, in this recording, and the conversation can get longer and heavier. But really, the call to action here is, there's more to unpack in these conversations, and we're hoping that if you got curious in this conversation, and you are needing more guidance, or you think, okay, what can I do then to sustain this? This is a good start for me. This is I got some good information from this conversation. I got some good ideas what I should be doing. Our call to action for you are two things. One, you can commit to yourself by just following exactly what we just talked about, and continue to do that, because that should give you enough momentum to improve your health. And then two, if you have the drive to explore more and really look into how can I do things deeper, better, and get better guidance, this is where PrimeSpan can actually really help you. You can explore a lot of our information, our podcasts, our community, and I'll give Kassandra and Allyson to talk about our coaches in our community. Kassandra, maybe you could talk a little bit about our coaches, because this is something that's probably important. Then I know you have to go, and then Allyson can talk about community.
Yeah, we have a team of coaches who come from all different walks of life and experiences and careers. They're either in the field of social work, physical therapy. We have a couple of naturopath doctors who have joined our coaching team. So it's a very qualified coaching team that we have available, who are just as passionate about health span, longevity, habit change, and really they are a great sounding board, and they want to spread the word about PrimeSpan and really help people make those habit changes that stick. The sessions are 25-minute sessions. They can happen as frequently as anyone would like them to. And it's just, if any of what we're talking about is resonating with you and you just need that accountability partner, this is a great way to start.
Thank you, Kassandra. Allyson, you want to talk about the community?
Yeah, our PrimeSpan community is an extension of our coursework and our programs that we have, and really established for people who are like-minded. Everybody wants to stay connected because they're on a similar journey, and having a support system of like-minded people is really helpful, just to know that we're all in this together. And so we have reflection topics to kind of dive deeper into topics, and have meetups, workshops, and just continuing the conversation there.
Thank you, Allyson. And again, for everybody that listened in on this conversation, we appreciate you. Hopefully you found some information here, some actions that you can take in and do to improve your health. Our goal is to continue to support you when it comes to your aging process. And if there's anything that we can do, feel free to reach out to us here at PrimeSpan. Until our next podcast, until our next recording. Allyson, any last word for our listeners?
Yes. Yes, I want to share how you can stay connected with us. So first, we are so happy to share about our podcast. We now have multiple platforms where you could join us free of charge, just to stay part of the conversation again with what we're doing at PrimeSpan. So we have podcasts on Apple Podcasts, now on Spotify, on YouTube. And if you're in our a member in PrimeSpan, you also have that in our app and our website. So lots of options to listen in with us. We also have a lot of engagement in social media. You can follow us on all platforms at PrimeSpan. And we encourage you to check out our program offerings. We have different levels with different price points and different support levels. So Kassandra mentioned the coaching we have. We have our monthly membership. And if you're unsure, we have a guided introduction to PrimeSpan as well, which can get you started. And we're looking to launch another layer of our monthly membership, which we're really excited to dive deeper into all of our lifestyle pillars. So stay tuned for that announcement very soon.
Thank you, Allyson. Just to close it, as I mentioned here on the quote, you don't need more information. You don't need more discipline. You need a system that holds when motivation fades. And that's why we're here. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, see you again. Bye.
Thank you for spending time with us. If today's conversation gave you clarity or steadiness, take that with you. We release new episodes weekly. Follow the PrimeSpan Podcast on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep living well.